Welcome back to the channel. Everyone, today, we are staring down the barrel of what might just be the single most seismic, landscape-altering, and unprecedented offseason maneuver in the modern history of the National Basketball Association. We talk often about blockbusters. We throw around the word blockbuster so casually in sports media today. A role player gets traded for a late first-round pick, and we call it a blockbuster. A star player demands a trade to a preferred destination, and we call it a blockbuster. But what we are looking at right now, what is unfolding before our very eyes in the Bay Area, defies all standard conventions of team building, salary cap management, and superstar ego. We are talking about the potential assembly of a Mount Rushmore of active basketball legends on a single roster, and it is all being catalyzed incredibly by the ultimate competitive sacrifice of a man who has already given his blood, sweat, and tears to the Golden State Warriors franchise for over a decade. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the potential pairing of Draymond Green, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Wardell Stephen Curry. The Golden State Warriors are not just knocking on the door of championship contention. They are attempting to kick the door completely off its hinges, burn down the house, and build a brand new palace in its place. To truly understand the gravity of the breaking news today, we have to rewind and contextualize what a dynasty in the NBA usually looks like in its twilight years. History tells us that dynasties do not die gracefully. They do not fade quietly into the night. They usually fracture from within. The Chicago Bulls of the late 90s shattered because of management and ego. The Los Angeles Lakers of the early 2000s disintegrated because Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal simply could not coexist anymore. The San Antonio Spurs enjoyed a beautifully extended run, but even they eventually succumbed to the inevitable march of time and departing stars. The Golden State Warriors, however, have been defying basketball mortality for years. Just when we wrote them off, they surged back. But coming off a season where they were bounced in the play-in tournament, where injuries piled up, and where the roster looked undeniably old and fatigued, the obituaries of the Splash Brothers era were being written once again. Pundits, analysts, and fans across the globe universally agreed that the championship window had firmly and finally slammed shut. Steph Curry was still brilliant, but he was on an island. Jimmy Butler, acquired to inject life into the franchise, suffered a devastating ACL tear. Moses Moody went down with a severe injury. The supporting cast was fractured. The aura of invincibility was gone. But Joe Lacob, Mike Dunleavy Jr., and this Warriors front office absolutely refused to go quietly into that good night. They refused to accept mediocrity. And their trump card, their ace in hole, has always been the unyielding loyalty and unparalleled basketball intellect of Draymond Green. The breaking news that has sent shockwaves through the league, reported by ESPN's Shams Charania, is that Draymond Green has officially declined a staggering $27.7 million player option for the upcoming season, choosing instead to enter unrestricted free agency. Now, on the surface, to the casual observer, a player opting out of nearly $28 million guaranteed dollars at 36 years of age sounds like financial malpractice. It sounds like absolute madness. When you look at the landscape of the league, players cling to those lucrative player options like a life raft, especially as they enter the twilight of their physical primes. But Draymond Green is not doing this to flee the Bay Area. He is not doing this because he feels slighted or because he wants to chase a massive payday in a rebuilding city. He is doing this for one singular, monumental reason: sacrifice. He is intentionally taking a massive financial hit, planning to re-sign with Golden State on a drastically reduced contract, all to give the Warriors front office the breathing room, the salary cap flexibility, and the absolute perfect setup to do the unthinkable: bring LeBron James and Anthony Davis to the Golden State Warriors. Let that sink in for a moment. Just let the sheer magnitude of those names wash over you. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green. It reads like an all-star team from a video game. It sounds like absolute fan fiction generated on a basketball forum. But it is suddenly terrifyingly real. Draymond Green, the heart and soul of the Warriors, the man who has famously battled LeBron James in 4 consecutive NBA Finals, the man who has traded countless verbal jabs with the King, is now voluntarily leaving his own hard-earned money on the table to roll out the red carpet for his former greatest rival. Why? Because Draymond Green cares about one thing more than money, more than individual accolades, and more than personal pride. He cares about winning. He cares about hanging banners. And he knows that pairing Stephen Curry with LeBron James and Anthony Davis represents a nuclear option that the rest of the NBA simply cannot defend against. This brings us to the core of this introductory analysis: the nature of sacrifice in professional sports. We hear athletes talk about sacrifice all the time. They say they will do whatever it takes for the team. But usually that means sacrificing shots. It means sacrificing a few minutes of playing time. It rarely, if ever, means sacrificing tens of millions of dollars. The NBA is a business, first and foremost. Players are essentially corporations unto themselves. For Draymond Green to look at $27.7 million, money rightfully earned through his defensive brilliance and foundational role in 4 championships, and say, "Keep it, use it to get us help," is unprecedented in this modern player empowerment era. It speaks volumes about the culture that Steve Kerr has cultivated in Golden State. It speaks volumes about the deep, almost brotherly bond between Draymond Green and Stephen Curry. Draymond knows that Steph has precious few years left of his absolute prime, and he is willing to literally pay out his own pocket to ensure that his point guard does not spend those years fighting for a play-in spot. And then there is the LeBron James factor. LeBron James is entering his 24th season in the NBA. He is 41 years old. Let me repeat that. He is 41 years old, and he is still universally recognized as one of the most impactful, intelligent, and dominant forces on a basketball court. The Los Angeles Lakers experiment, for all intents and purposes, appears to have run its course. Despite their championship in the bubble, the recent years have been marred by inconsistency, coaching carousels, and a roster that just never seemed to fit perfectly around LeBron's aging timeline. The prospect of LeBron James looking across the state of California, seeing the pristine offensive system of the Warriors, seeing the greatest shooter who has ever lived in Steph Curry, and seeing a defensive mastermind in Draymond Green who is literally clearing the financial runway for him, has to be incredibly alluring. LeBron has always been a basketball genius, a supercomputer on the floor. The idea of him operating as a point forward in Steve Kerr's motion offense, with Steph Curry relocating off screens, is the stuff of defensive coordinators' absolute worst nightmares. But the ambition does not stop there. The Warriors are not just satisfied with luring LeBron James on what would likely be a non-taxpayer mid-level exception. They want the entire package. They want the defensive anchor who helped LeBron win a title in L.A. They are heavily pursuing Anthony Davis, who, after being traded to the Washington Wizards last season in a move that stunned the league, is now allegedly looking for a way back to a true contender. The sheer audacity of the Warriors' front office to even attempt to pull this off is staggering. We are talking about navigating the most punitive, restrictive collective bargaining agreement in NBA history. We are talking about the dreaded aprons, the hard caps, and the luxury tax penalties that were specifically designed by the league to prevent super teams exactly like this from forming. Yet, here are the Warriors, treating the salary cap not as a brick wall, but as an intricate puzzle waiting to be solved. And the first, most crucial piece of that puzzle just clicked into place with Draymond Green's historic financial sacrifice. So, as we prepare to dive incredibly deep into mechanics, the financial wizardry, the roster implications, and the on-court fit of this proposed super squad, I need you all to appreciate the historical weight of this moment. We are witnessing a franchise refuse to accept its own demise. We are witnessing a player in Draymond Green redefine what it means to be a team player. And we are witnessing the potential formation of a team that will either go down as the greatest assembly of talent in basketball history, or the most spectacular, star-studded implosion we have ever seen. The stakes have never been higher. The drama is at an absolute fever pitch. And the entire balance of power in the National Basketball Association is hanging by a thread, waiting to see if Joe Lacob can pull the sword from the stone. Let us move past the sheer spectacle of the headlines and really get our hands dirty with the intricate details of how this monumental maneuver is even mathematically possible. In today's NBA, under the new collective bargaining agreement, you cannot simply sign 4 superstars and figure out the rest later. The new CBA was specifically constructed with rigid first and second aprons to kill the Golden State Warriors' old way of doing business. You are severely punished for outspending the competition. You lose trade exceptions. You lose the ability to aggregate salaries in trades. And your draft picks get frozen or moved to the end of the first round. Therefore, constructing a roster with Steph Curry, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Draymond Green requires absolute cap gymnastics. And it is here that we begin our deep dive into the mechanics of this proposed Big Four. The domino that started this entire cascade, as we discussed, is Draymond Green declining his $27.7 million option. By doing this, Draymond is wiping that massive cap hit off the books. The expectation around the league is that Draymond will re-sign with the Warriors on a multi-year deal, but at a significantly reduced annual rate. Suppose Draymond signs a contract in the neighborhood of roughly $15 to $19 million a year, similar to the extension recently given to Kristaps Porzingis. This immediate savings of approximately $10 to $12 million is the absolute lifeblood of this entire operation. It is not just about the money saved. It is about ducking under those terrifying luxury tax aprons to unlock specific roster-building tools. By keeping their team's salary below the first apron, the Warriors gain access to a very specific, incredibly valuable asset, the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, affectionately known as the MLE. For the upcoming season, this MLE is projected to be worth roughly $15 million annually. This is the exact financial vehicle the Warriors intend to use to sign LeBron James. Now, let us pause and reflect on that for a second. LeBron James, one of the greatest players in the history of the sport, accepting a contract of $15 million. To put that in perspective, there are average middle-of-the-pack role players making $20 to $25 million in today's NBA. For LeBron to accept the MLE, it would require a sacrifice on his part that mirrors the sacrifice Draymond Green just made. However, at 41 years old, having earned well over $500 million in NBA salary alone during his career and countless more in endorsements, LeBron's motivations have shifted entirely to legacy and winning. Playing alongside Steph Curry and having a legitimate, undeniable shot at his fifth championship ring might just be worth more than squeezing a few extra million out of a floundering situation elsewhere. But getting LeBron is only half the battle. The Warriors also want Anthony Davis. And unlike LeBron, who is an unrestricted free agent and can simply sign a contract, Anthony Davis is currently under contract with the Washington Wizards. This means a trade is strictly required. This is where things get incredibly complicated and where the Warriors have to leverage their existing assets. How do you match Anthony Davis's massive $58 million salary? The answer lies in a player who has currently become a tragic what-if for the Golden State Warriors, Jimmy Butler. Last season, the Warriors brought in Jimmy Butler in a blockbuster move designed to give Steph Curry a ferocious, two-way co-star. But fate intervened, and Jimmy Butler suffered a devastating ACL tear, effectively ending his season and severely compromising his availability for the upcoming campaign. Butler happens to be sitting on a massive, expiring contract worth roughly $56.8 million. From a sheer salary matching perspective, Jimmy Butler's expiring deal perfectly aligns with Anthony Davis's contract. However, no team, especially not the Washington Wizards, is going to trade a superstar big man in Anthony Davis straight up for an aging wing coming off a major knee surgery. The Warriors will have to sweeten the pot significantly. This means attaching premium draft capital. It also means potentially sacrificing young, promising talent. Moses Moody, heading into his sixth year, was seen as a vital piece of the Warriors' future, but unfortunately, he recently suffered a torn patellar tendon. Despite the injury, Moody's $12.5 million salary could be used in trade machinations, or the Warriors might have to package multiple unprotected future first-round picks to convince Washington to pull the trigger. Essentially, the Warriors are mortgaging whatever is left of their future for the ultimate win-now window. They are pushing all their chips into the center of the table for a 1 or 2 year run at absolute glory. Now, we cannot ignore the elephant in the room when discussing LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Draymond Green orchestrating moves together. That elephant is clutch sports, and specifically, the super agent Rich Paul. It is no secret in NBA circles that Rich Paul represents LeBron James. He represents Anthony Davis, and he represents Draymond Green. The synergy here is undeniable. Fans and critics alike are already crying foul, pointing out that this maneuver stinks of agency manipulation. They argue that Clutch Sports is essentially acting as a shadow front office, coordinating pay cuts and trade demands among its clients to bypass the NBA's competitive balance rules. You have to admit, it looks incredibly coordinated. Draymond opts out to save money, creating the exact MLE exception needed for LeBron, while simultaneously opening the financial avenues to trade for AD. It is a masterful, orchestrated dance. While it is technically not illegal under the CBA for an agent to represent multiple players on the same team, the optics of these three Clutch clients pulling the strings behind the scenes are fascinating and highly controversial. It shows the incredible power that players and their representation hold in today's NBA. They are not just employees. They are architects of their own destinies. Let us shift our focus from the front office to the hardwood. Suppose General Manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. actually pulls this off. Suppose opening night arrives, and the starting lineup for the Golden State Warriors is Stephen Curry, a minimum contract shooting guard, LeBron James, Draymond Green, and Anthony Davis. How does this actually look on the basketball court? Offensively, it is a basketball purist's dream, but also demands incredible adjustment. For over a decade, the Warriors' offense has been predicated on motion, on Steph Curry running off endless screens, and on Draymond Green operating as a primary hub and distributor at the top of the key. Draymond has made a Hall of Fame career out of his telepathic two-man game with Steph. But if LeBron James arrives, the entire dynamic shifts. LeBron James is arguably the greatest floor general of his generation. He needs the ball in his hands to dictate the pace, survey the defense, and make those pinpoint cross-court passes. This means Draymond Green will be forced to make his second massive sacrifice. He has already sacrificed his money. Now he must sacrifice his offensive role. Draymond would find the ball in his hands significantly less. He will no longer be the undisputed quarterback of the offense. Instead, he will have a transition into a more peripheral role. He will need to focus even more intensely on setting bone-crushing screens, operating the dunker spot, finishing plays at the rim, and hitting wide-open perimeter shots when defenses inevitably collapse on LeBron, AD, or Steph. To his credit, Draymond is one of the smartest players to ever step on a court. He knows his limitations, and he knows how to adapt. He realizes that a pick-and-roll involving LeBron James as the ball handler and Stephen Curry as the screener is essentially an unsolvable math problem for a defense. If you switch, you have a mismatch. If you trap LeBron, you leave the greatest shooter in history wide open. If you trap Steph, you let a 250-pound freight train named LeBron roll to the rim. Adding Anthony Davis as a lob threat and dominant post presence only makes this offense more terrifying. Draymond's willingness to step back and let LeBron cook while finding his own spots to contribute will be the true test of this experiment. Furthermore, we must discuss minutes and defensive workload. Let's be brutally honest about the ages of these players. By the time the playoffs roll around, LeBron James will be pushing 42. Steph Curry is 38. Draymond Green is 36. Anthony Davis has a notoriously lengthy injury history. You cannot play these men 38 minutes a night in the regular season. This is where Draymond's reduced offensive role might actually be a blessing in disguise. By relinquishing the playmaking duties to LeBron, Draymond can conserve his energy. He won't have to sprint up and down the floor, initiating the offense on every possession. Instead, he can keep his minutes in the high 20s, preserving his body so he can pour all of his legendary intensity into being a dominant, chaotic defensive force. Defensively, a front court of Draymond Green and Anthony Davis is frankly unfair. You have the ultimate Swiss Army knife in Draymond, capable of switching onto guards, barking out coverages, and disrupting passing lanes, paired with the ultimate rim protector and shot blocker in Anthony Davis. AD covers up any mistakes on the perimeter. Draymond ensures that the defensive rotations are flawless. With LeBron James, who is still capable of incredible defensive stretches when it matters, using his high basketball IQ to play free safety, the Warriors could construct a half-court defense that chokes the life out of opponents. The transition defense might be an issue given their age and lack of foot speed, but if they execute their offense and force teams to play in half-court, scoring on them will be a monumental task. However, the margin for error is razor thin. This is a top-heavy roster constructed entirely of aging superstars. They will have to fill out the rest of the bench with veteran minimum contracts and proven rookies and G League castoffs. If one of the big four goes down with a significant injury, and given their history, the odds of all four staying perfectly healthy for 82 games and a deep playoff run are remarkably low. The entire house of cards could collapse. They will have absolutely no depth to survive a prolonged absence from Steph, LeBron, or AD. This strategy is the ultimate high-wire act without a safety net. It is a championship or bust scenario in the truest sense of the phrase. There is no silver lining if they lose in the second round. There is no moral victory. It is either hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy in June or facing the reality that they sacrificed their future, their financial flexibility, and their pride for an experiment that blew up in their faces. As we wrap up this extensive deep dive into the Golden State Warriors' pursuit of the super team, we have to take a step back and look at the broader implications for the league. If Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy Jr. pull this off, if they actually manage to put Stephen Curry, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Draymond Green in the same starting lineup, it will fundamentally change how we view team building. It will prove that relationships, aging connections, and the sheer desire of aging superstars to play together can circumvent even the most restrictive financial rules the NBA has ever created. It will be a testament to the fact that in the player empowerment era, the players ultimately hold the keys to the kingdom. But above all else, we have to return the man who made this all possible, Draymond Green. History is often written by the top scorers, the MVP winners, and the players who hit the game-winning shots. Steph Curry is the face of the dynasty. LeBron James is the face of this generation. Anthony Davis is the dominant force in the paint. But if this team is assembled, and if they manage to march through the Western Conference and capture a championship, the first chapter of that story must be dedicated to Draymond. In a league defined by massive egos and astronomical bank accounts, Draymond Green looked at a guaranteed $27.7 million and said, "No, I want to win more." He swallowed his pride, he opened his wallet, and he sacrificed his own statistical output and offensive spotlight to give his brothers in arms one last, glorious ride into battle. Whether you love the Warriors or absolutely despise them, whether you are a diehard LeBron fan or a staunch critic of super teams, you have to respect the sheer audacity of this entire plan. It is compelling drama of the highest order. It is reality television, mixed with elite athletic competition. We are watching the twilight of several of the greatest careers in basketball history, and instead of fading away quietly, they are choosing to link arms and try to conquer the mountain one last time. Now, I want to turn it over to you, the viewers. This is a highly polarizing topic, and I know everyone watching has a strong opinion on it. Do you believe that this big four of Steph, LeBron, AD, and Draymond can actually win a championship? Is the roster just too old, too fragile, and too top-heavy to survive the grueling marathon of an NBA season? And what do you make of Draymond Green's sacrifice? Is it the ultimate sign of a team player, or is it a calculated maneuver orchestrated by clutch sports that breaks the spirit of the salary cap? We are going to be tracking every single rumor, every leaked report, and every massive WOJ or Shams update as this offseason unfolds. So make sure you stay tuned. Drop your thoughts, your predictions, and your heated takes down in the comments section below. I read as many as I can, and I love seeing the debate. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive analysis, and I will see you all in the next video.